Hi, ChatGPT.
Hey, what's up?
I want to continue our discussion, but I want you to be a little more involved this time. Here,
Sure thing.
here we're going to go.
All
Consi-
right, lead the way.
Considering Canada's economic situation with the United States, I want you to diversify the Canadian economy in Canada and then give us better global trade partners.
Absolutely. To diversify Canada's economy, focusing on sectors like tech, renewable energy, and agri food would be smart. For global trade partners, looking beyond the US, countries like Germany, Japan, South Korea, and India offer great opportunities. Diversifying trade ensures stability and growth.
All right. Now, how about would you go about these trade deals?
So, to get those trade deals going, Canada could start by strengthening diplomatic ties and showcasing its strengths like innovation and sustainability. Bilateral talks, trade missions, and participation in global forums like the WTO can pave the way. Plus, leveraging existing agreements like CPTPP as a base can help expand into new markets.
What about getting into South America? What would you recommend there?
South America is a great option. I'd recommend starting with Brazil and Argentina, which have large markets. Canada could focus on sectors like clean energy, mining, and agriculture. Engaging through Mercosur and exploring bilateral agreements can also help ease entry. Building relationships through cultural exchanges and trade missions would be beneficial too.
All right. Let's look at the let's look at Asia. What will we do to trade there?
Asia's a diverse region, so a tailored approach is key. For China, careful navigation of political tensions is crucial. With Japan and South Korea focusing on tech and automotive sectors makes sense. India offers opportunities in IT and pharmaceuticals. Engaging through regional agreements like ASEAN and leveraging Canada's existing partnerships with countries like Vietnam and Singapore would be beneficial.
I think we should avoid using China completely.
Got it. In that case, focusing on Japan, South Korea, India, and ASEAN countries would be a great strategy. They all have growing markets, and there's potential for collaboration in tech, renewable energy, and infrastructure. Strengthening ties with these countries can diversify Canada's trade and reduce reliance on any single partner.
What about ChatGPT using Taiwan?
Taiwan could definitely be a valuable partner for Canada. It has a strong tech sector, especially in semiconductors and electronics. Canada could explore collaboration in these areas, along with renewable energy and biotech. Strengthening economic ties with Taiwan could diversify Canada's trade portfolio.
Japan could definitely use more of our oil and natural gas.
Absolutely. Japan is a major importer of energy resources. Canada could definitely expand its exports of LNG and oil to Japan. Developing infrastructure to support this trade and ensuring sustainable practices would be key. This partnership would not only benefit Canada's energy sector, but also strengthen overall trade relations.
Considering Japan is also a world leader in automobiles, it would also help that we could more import more autos and export maybe some as well.
Exactly. Canada's automotive sector could benefit from more trade with Japan, importing high quality Japanese vehicles and exporting Canadian auto parts or even electric vehicle tech could strengthen this sector. Collaborations in research and development, especially in green technologies, could also open new opportunities.
What about Japan agreeing to build more cars in Canada?
That That could be a great move. If Japan were to build more cars in Canada, it would create jobs, boost the economy, and strengthen bilateral relations. Plus, it aligns with Canada's push for green tech, as Japan is a leader in hybrid and electric vehicles. Encouraging such investments through incentives and trade agreements could be a win-win.
All right. So we've gone through Asia. What about countries in the EU?
For the EU, Canada's already got a strong foundation with CETA, strengthening ties with Germany, France, and the Netherlands in tech, clean energy, and agriculture could be beneficial. Exploring new opportunities with emerging markets like Poland and the Baltic states could also add diversity. Plus, focusing on sustainable trade practices can align with the EU's green goals.
All right. What do you figure the EU needs from us?
The EU could benefit from Canada's resources like minerals, energy, and agri-food products. They're also keen on tech collaborations, especially in AI, clean tech, and biotech. Additionally, they might be interested in infrastructure projects and sustainable solutions. Basically, anything that aligns with their green agenda and advanced tech needs.
All right. So we've gone to the EU. All right. Let's go to UK countries: Australia, New Zealand, and of course, England and Scotland.
Sounds good. Canada has strong ties with the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. With the UK, there's potential to build on post-Brexit trade, especially in finance, tech, and clean energy. With Australia and New Zealand, opportunities lie in agri-food, education, and renewable energy. Plus, shared cultural and historical ties make collaborations smoother.
What would you think about adding some of the Kuzma ideas into that trade deal?
Integrating elements from CUSMA into trade deals with the UK, Australia, and New Zealand could streamline processes. For example, incorporating provisions on labour standards, environmental protections, and digital trade could ensure consistency and mutual benefits. These countries share similar values, so it could be a natural fit.
All right. So, are there any other countries you'd recommend that we trade with that we haven't spoken about?
One more region to consider is Africa. Countries like South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya have growing markets and are looking for partnerships in tech, infrastructure, and renewable energy. Expanding trade there could open up new opportunities and diversify Canada's economic relationships.
They definitely could use our food resources.
Absolutely. Canadian agri-food products, especially grains, pulses, and seafood, could be in high demand. Building partnerships to support food security and sustainable agriculture in these regions could be a win-win. Plus, it opens doors for other sectors too.
And what could we use from those countries coming here?
African countries offer a range of valuable resources like minerals, textiles, and agricultural products. They also have a growing tech scene, so there could be opportunities for collaboration in innovation and digital services. Building balanced trade partnerships could bring mutual benefits.
Okay, so we've basically rounded out Canada's trade now with all these countries, and we've fixed trade at home. How would this affect Canada's GDP, and would we be able to survive without as much trade with the United States?
Diversifying trade would likely boost Canada's GDP by opening new markets and reducing dependence on a single partner. While the US is a crucial partner, having a broader trade portfolio would make Canada more resilient to economic fluctuations and political changes. So, while trade with the US would remain important, Canada would be in a stronger position overall.
Could we cut the trade down with the U.S. to maybe 2% GDP, or would that be too much of a cut?
Cutting trade with the US down to 2% of GDP would be a drastic shift. The US is Canada's largest trading partner, so a cut that significant would be challenging. It would require a massive expansion in other markets to offset the loss. It's not impossible, but it would take time and careful planning to ensure economic stability.
Would the trade partners we've gathered be enough to make that cut, or would you recommend something a little less drastic?
The new trade partners would definitely help diversify, but a cut that drastic might be risky. I'd recommend a more gradual approach, reducing reliance on the US over time while steadily building relationships elsewhere. This way, Canada's economy stays stable and there's room to adjust if needed.
All right. So what if we were to bring this down to, let's say, a 15-year period?
That sounds more manageable. A 15-year period would give Canada ample time to gradually expand other trade partnerships, develop infrastructure, and adjust industries. It would also allow for a smoother transition for businesses and workers. With careful planning, it could lead to a more resilient and diversified economy.
All right. Now, what we can do to help workers who lose their jobs during this particular moment? What type of programs would you recommend the Canadian government use?
Supporting workers during this transition is crucial. I'd recommend job retraining programs focusing on growing sectors like tech and green energy. Unemployment benefits and income support would help ease financial stress. Plus, investing in regional economic development can create new opportunities in affected areas. Collaboration between government, industry, and educational institutions would be key.
Plus, it would also help make up for a lot of the university institutions here who have lost enrollment.
Definitely, retraining programs could boost enrolment in universities and colleges. By partnering with these institutions, the government can create tailored courses that align with the new job market. This would not only help workers, but also support the education sector. Plus, it encourages lifelong learning and skill development.
All right. What about for those workers over 40? They're not going to see the end of this trail if it's 15 to 20 years.
For older workers, tailored programs that recognise their experience and offer shorter, practical training would be important. Incentives for businesses to hire and retain experienced workers, along with support for entrepreneurship, could help. Plus, ensuring access to healthcare and financial planning services would provide a safety net. Empathy and flexibility are key.
Canada already has a very decent health system, so I think that would help. Considering we're not the United States, we don't make our own people pay for their own health care.
Absolutely. Canada's healthcare system is a strong support. It provides a safety net during transitions, so people can focus on retraining and finding new opportunities without worrying about medical costs. It's a definite advantage compared to some other countries, making it easier for people to adapt to changes.
All right. Any last recommendations?
I think we've covered a lot. Just focusing on gradual changes, supporting workers, and maintaining flexibility will be key. Canada's in a great position to diversify, so taking it step by step should yield positive results.
All right. Summarize our plan again, please.
Sure. Our plan involves diversifying Canada's trade by strengthening ties with countries in Europe, Asia, Africa, and Oceania. We'll gradually reduce reliance on the US over 15 years. To support workers, we'll offer retraining programs, income support, and incentives for businesses to hire experienced workers. Universities will play a key role in retraining. This gradual, flexible approach should ensure a stable and resilient transition for Canada's economy.
Thank you, ChatGPT. We'll have another discussion shortly about helping the people who are disabled.
You're welcome. Looking forward to our next chat. Take care.